What up, though? It's your boy Styles in the building. What up, Clint?
What's going on, good brother? How you?
Man, I'm good. I'm good. Just on my way home. Doing the best I can. What I got right now is sunny good in. So hopefully uh, you and I can do this for a minute while she's working on getting to the show.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, no doubt. So what's good with you this weekend? How'd your weekend go?
Oh man, everything went good. You know what I mean? It was just chill and relaxing. It was a nice low key weekend. It was Halloween weekend, so I don't do the little I don't do Halloween. A lot of people do Halloween, so but not me. But it was cool though. It was cool. Wasn't too much excitement. You know what I mean? Just what's up, Joy? How you doing? You know what I mean? But yeah, we was just chilling. How was yours? What you get into this weekend?
Say it again.
I said, what you get into this past weekend?
So I was down in Florida with my fiance, and we really just was chilling, man. Mostly crazy stuff going on down there in Florida. Really, um, they a little wild and reckless down there. They're not really uh fully adhering to the fact that this is a pandemic. So that was a little crazy. We made the best of what we could. Hung out at the beach a lot. Did a lot of outdoor activities. Um, did make it to a couple restaurants that were doing social distancing, but the rest of the time we just was at the crib. So
Okay, okay. I can dig that. Nothing wrong with that. So you said down there they social distance. I know I read on the news the mayor down there, he tried to open it. Well, he opened everything up a while ago. So I already know they're a little bit loose and reckless uh
right,
with the social distancing rules and all of that. So
right,
that
yeah,
that's to
yeah.
be expected.
I was over on the Gulf Coast, so I wasn't on the east on the Atlantic side. So things over there haven't been as bad. So I kind of don't blame them for how loose they are, but I also think that they're just playing with fire, right? It's just a matter of time before they start seeing the spikes and everything. So we'll see.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Here it's everything is spiked up here in Jersey. Uh, what's up? I ain't married, sweetheart. Joey talk about I look relaxed and my wife beat me last week. Nah, I'm just chilling. Actually, I just not too long ago woke up from a nap. You know what I mean? I had to take me a nap before I got on here tonight. But uh that's funny. That's funny, Joy.
Oh yeah, naps are definitely essential. I'm all for a nap game. I'm all for doing what you got to do to get your rest. So I'm with that. I'm with that.
Exactly, exactly. Know what I mean? Only reason why I'm telling you, if it weren't for my daughter, I would not be up right now. I tell you that much because I would have definitely overslept. So I was out of it. But now I mean, Sonny, what up? Sonny already knows she not queen. You feel
Oh
me?
yeah,
She
no, I'm mad because I still feel like I'm dark. Can y'all see me?
what's going on
Uh,
with you?
I'm good. I'm glad y'all can hear me this time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear you perfectly. I hear you perfectly. I mean,
Did you already start the show?
yeah, yeah. We started already. You and Willie have come
Yeah, we already
off.
started.
Willie pitched black
Okay,
over
I'm,
there.
I'm sorry.
Willie pitched
I was
black.
having technical difficulties.
Nah, man, we can't
But
even
hey
tell
guys,
you light skin. Can't even tell Sonny light skin. So dark over there. What's
I'm
going on?
no, it's not that. I'm gonna somebody else's computer,
Oh, okay, okay.
and I feel like I can't be seen. I don't know. I got lights on. Can y'all see me now? Am I coming in clear?
Yeah, you were clear.
Okay, let me go this way. Maybe I should. Okay.
Joy says she missed you.
Hey son, I was on the end of the last show. I just my computer essentially died. That's what happened. The monitor died at least.
Okay,
Um
okay.
the screen. So I'm in the process of getting it fixed. So I'm gonna have to start a GoFundMe It's 124 hours, but I just pay mortgage, so I have to wait till next check. So I got to survive until next check. So it was either somebody else's computer or my cell phone. So
Oh, okay. Well, you
that's
know what I
what
mean. For those of you out there, you know what I mean. Today's show is about politics. You know, the election day is tomorrow. Uh, Presidential election. So I think Willie came up with this topic, or I don't know who actually came
I
up with
think
the topic.
it was really because he said we didn't really talk about the
Yeah,
election recently. So
yeah. I definitely wanted to touch on the election, the voting. Talk about all the stuff that's going on. What's up? What's up, Joy? I love you. Appreciate you
Joy,
stepping in, checking us out. So yeah, I wanted to touch on the election and the situation going on. I mean, first things first. Like my thing is, 2020 has already been crazy ass year, and I also believe that it's definitely one of the most, I don't know, most involved, what they call it, involved election years ever in terms of campaign. From a standpoint of, the text messages. Everybody know what I'm talking about. We're getting these text messages, getting tons of mail, getting tons of email. So I think it's been one of those things where it's really been the most involved situation ever. So wanted to talk about that, talk about the candidates, talk about the importance of local elections, knowing who you're voting for, and like we said, like in the title, are we too stupid to vote? The electoral college, you know how we do.
yeah, but
Hmm.
I just got a kind of a question before we can ask the question because I just wanted people to know. You see, have you seen like the commercials in the different things where they're telling you make sure you read the instructions, you follow them to the T, like whether your thing comes with two envelopes versus one, blue or black ink, and all those things. Because I know my job, people don't read anything; they just go ahead and do what they do. Um, did y'all read the instructions carefully? Because and if you did you mail your ballot in, or did you walk it in? Like you could drop it off in different places. Like, so what did you guys choose to do?
Well, me personally, I mailed mine in back in October, actually. And it's a website you could go on to. Us here in Jersey, me and Sonny, we're in Mercer County, New Jersey. So you could go on. I just went on mercercounty.gov and you can check to see if they actually received your mail-in ballot or whatever. And mine was received, I think, on October
Well, now I
20th.
gotta look and see if mine's because I did mine uh early as hell. Like I think as soon as it came out in the mail.
Yeah, I did mine back in October. I think they received it on October 20th. It said, but yeah, yeah, I read through it. That wasn't my first time doing the mail in.
Yeah, because I
Yeah,
started doing mailing recently.
yeah, that wasn't my first time. But yeah, I definitely. It's very important that everybody read those directions and follow it specifically, and to read the questions
Oh,
that they.
definitely. We always say that though.
Yeah, we always tell people that, I mean, all our previous shows, we've been talking about this since before, way before this election. We was talking about this back before Donald Trump got elected,
Yeah.
what I mean? So, on this podcast. But, yeah, the local elections, we're going to get into that as well. But me personally, I don't know about Willie, but I definitely, like you said you mailed yours, and I mailed mine there early. Shout out! I think Willie
Yeah.
did his too. I remember Willie on
Yep.
posting it on social media, and I think I sent mine like probably like a day or two after he had
Where?
posted his.
Yeah, I mailed mine in. I got my absentee ballot back in October as well, and I mailed it in because I was traveling a lot, so I wanted to make sure I had it in, and so I ended up just doing what I had to do, get it mailed in. I was going to drop it off at the spot, but timing and everything, and then needing to get out of town, so I was like I didn't want it to delay it. just got it mailed in. And like you said, I definitely followed all the instructions. I'm, you know me, I'm a big proponent of reading all my instructions, reading all the details, all the little, because like you said, things can be invalidated just from not following those instructions properly. And I've double envelope mine like it was supposed to be because ours in Michigan, ours come in a like 2 envelope system. So I did what I had to do on that part too.
Yeah, ours was the same way. The double envelope, and it specifically said, you know what I mean. If you don't double envelope this thing like how they had it set up, your vote will not count. So I made sure I followed that thing to a T. And like you said, I'm a big proponent of reading the directions. You know what I mean. And I see Joy. Joy said she mailed hers in too, which is important. But I want to get it straight into the title of this because I've said plenty of times on here, I don't believe everybody should have the right to vote. I really don't because everybody isn't informed. I hate let me clarify. Let me clarify as far I don't believe you should be able to vote if you don't know what's going on, if you don't know who you're voting for. I understand. I always talk about the argument I got in with a good friend of mine. She was talking about our ancestors died for us for the right for us to vote. And I always say they didn't die for the right for us to vote ignorantly. You know what I mean? Don't go in that booth ignorantly. I always talk about the first time when I voted. You feel me? I just voted. My grandma was 80 something years old at the time. She went around there and voted at the community center. When I was able to vote, I was like, you know what? I'm doing it. My grandma doing it. She voting Democrat, so I'm voting Democrat. And then when I went in the booth and I'm voting, and it's like, okay, who are these people? What do they stand for? I couldn't answer those questions. I had no answer. I didn't know who I was voting. So I just did Democrat straight all the way down because that's what I was told. That's what I was taught. Black people always vote Democrat because that's what we should, because they for us, blah, blah. And with me, growing up, you know what I mean, and learning, like I always said, my dad, he was a Republican, you know what I mean, straight from the projects, you feel me? Killer Holmes, you know what I mean? He was a Republican. Everybody looked at him crazy. So me, I'm an independent. That's how I approach it. And I feel like you got to earn my vote. You know what I mean? I'm not just about to vote for you just because you're a Democrat. I'm not just about to vote for you just because you're a Republican or vote for you because you're an independent. I don't believe it's just a two-party system. So when you get to the direct question or are we too stupid to vote, I feel like we're too lazy, we're too uninformed. You know what I mean? Most people think there's only two parties. Most people think right now voting is only two presidential nominees that you can vote for. You'll fall for the myth and the rhetoric of, well, if you don't vote for such and such, you're splitting the vote. There's no such thing as splitting a vote if that's not who you want to vote for. It's other people on the ballot. So if I choose to vote for somebody else on the ballot, I'm not splitting a vote. That's saying who I wanted to vote for. Now, if they win or not, that's that's not on me. You feel me? Yeah. That's you split the vote. So like say like I'm just you. I don't know who y'all vote for. I'm not telling nobody who to vote for. Let's just say Willie and Sonny voted for Biden, right? And I decided to vote for Howie Hawkins. Now I was having a conversation. Who the hell are Howie Hawkins and Angela Walker? They on the Green Party ticket. You know what I mean? So say they don't win and say Trump wins. Most Democrats will look at me and be like, well, it's your fault they won because you didn't vote for Biden. You split the vote. And in my opinion, it's like, no, I didn't split any vote. I didn't want Biden, nor did I want Trump. I wanted Howie Hawkins. Now, just because he didn't win, okay, you know what I mean? That isn't my fault. My thing is, most voters don't even know who else is on the ballot. They don't know about Joe Jorgensen and they don't know about the Libertarian Party, the Green Party. and the other parties. So it's like if you can't tell these people who else are on the ballot, why are you telling these people to vote? That's the first question I should tell. I want everybody to ask when somebody tells them to vote that never voted before. Why should I be voting for who you telling me to vote for? You know what I mean? Do you know who's on the ballot? Do you know the policies of those you're who you voting for? If not, then it's like, you know what I mean, what are we really doing? We always say we understand the process. It's like we don't even understand the voting process. So if we don't understand the voting process, how can you actually go into that booth? Like I said, I'm speaking from a place of I learned from the bottom. I was the ignorant one going in there, not knowing who I was voting for, and just voting because somebody told me it was the right thing to do.
Right.
You're a part of the problem if that's what you're doing.
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely agree that people should not go into voting lightly. They shouldn't go in uninformed, not conscious, like you said, of the other options that they have. One thing I was reading today was talking about the importance of taking your children to the polling, getting them understanding what the process is like, also getting them to understand how to how to find out about the judges, the legislative members that are running, how to find. So there's resources out there. There's tons of resources. There's websites that have information directly from those candidates about the candidates that are running in your county, in your state, and across the country. So then that way, like you said, you have an opportunity to become informed. And I think that's the problem, is that a lot of times, like you said, people are being lazy because, one, people aren't making time to understand what they're voting for and who they're voting for. Two, they're also not understanding the importance of being an informed voter. And I think that, my sister got jokes. And I think that they're, the level of importance that they're placing on voting sometimes is displaced by what they were taught and what they're being told, right? Like you mentioned, Smooth, is that people are sometimes told when they're young to vote a certain party because their family votes that party, or because their race votes that party, or because their values vote that party. And it has nothing to do with any of that. A lot of times what affects you doesn't affect others. What affects me doesn't affect you guys in Jersey. What affects you doesn't affect me just because we all black. I may have different moral values. I mean, like like Joy was just mentioning, she has this Jehovah's Witnesses vote. And some of them do. Some do. Most don't, but some do. So it depends on the person. I had this long conversation with some of my what's up with some of the witnesses that I've talked to that do vote, or that have an opinion like that. And the thing is that sometimes for them, what's more important is beyond their religion, right? So I think that a lot of times it's the issue of, are they being told something that can looks like Rashid is taking an alternative route. He's going with the birthday party. So sometimes we have to get out of that mindset, out of that vicious cycle of, just like you said, just uninformed voting just based on what we're told. And a lot of things that people don't think about is the primaries. They also don't think about special elections, or they don't talk about special elections. They don't go through and that's only a half truth, Joy. It's not that they don't believe in government. They don't believe in putting their faith in government. That's it's kind of similar to the whole separation of church and state. They believe in that. But anyway, the biggest thing I think is that people have to get out of that mindset that they have to be stuck in a certain party or a certain way of voting, and they have to think about those community or the elections that affect their community, like their mayor, their governor, their local or what they call them, council people, and then all of the proposals and propositions that affect their community. Because a lot of that is what they call it, the most important part of the uh, of the election system that there is, because that affects us directly at the local level.
Exactly. Exactly. Sonny, your thoughts?
I feel like for me, I don't feel I mean my daughter. I'm gonna go back a little bit, but my daughter went to. I took her to the ballot. To the when I voted, I took her a couple times. A couple times we went, and I just explained to her like this is how the ballot looks. I explained to her the big things you get in the mail, blah blah blah. This is basically it on the computer, and this is how you gotta do this, and about the questions, looking for those as well, and blah blah blah. Um, I wouldn't tell her the same way I wouldn't tell her which religion to pick. I'm not gonna tell her what party she should be a part of. That's totally up to her and what she wants to do with herself and how she feels about how the votes affect her. Um, for me, it was like I just felt like it was important for me to vote. Even like you said, Clint, when we were younger, you don't know. All you just know is you're happy to vote. You can vote, so let me vote. Like any, many, money, mo, whichever one you feel, whoever name you heard the most, stupid shit like that. Um, Eventually, you grow out of that and you kind of pay attention to the different policies and stuff like that. Like for us women, it's more most of us feel like we should have the right to choose. So we're going to pay attention to what candidates are speaking that language because we know that the government has been trying to take a lot of things from us. Healthcare is a big thing. If you got kids, you're going to be concerned with that. So those types of things, depending on what type of job you make or how much you make, whether you're impoverished, middle class, and upper class, you're going to pay attention to those things. So you just and for like Willie said, for different things mean different things to different people. So while I may vote for and that was the first thing around the Trump election, I had friends that I knew that wouldn't vote for Trump, or that would vote for Trump because of personal reasons. They didn't like Hillary, or they felt like Trump was giving them more what they felt was good for them. And like as black people, we saw it like a lot of us saw it as he's racist. Why we want a racist in the office? Like he over here grabbing women. He on some straight bullshit, and all this stuff. So we can't really rock with him for different reasons. Not even his political beliefs, but just his personal beliefs. Um, so I think you definitely have to research. I'm gonna. I know it's gonna sound crazy, but like I'm gonna agree disagree with Clint to an extent about he feels like people shouldn't vote if they're not informed. I agree with that, but I feel like just if you have at some point you've heard something, so you got some type of something, and I would prefer for you to vote. Period. Like I'm one of the people I prefer to use to vote. I would hope that you thought about your candidates. I would hope that you researched them as a direct reflect to your life and shit like that. But I just want you to vote the same way I would do for a mayor election, city officials. I feel like people should just vote because it's a lot of bitching and complaining in the morning, and then you haven't done anything. So I feel like if you have done nothing, you're part of the problem. And I agree. I understand what you're saying is if you vote and you're not informed, you're part of the problem too. I get that. I'm here with that too, but I just feel like people should just vote. Like you've heard like a lot of these lectures, you hear a lot of shit. You hear something at least. So that can give you some type of inkling of something rather than bitching. Like, because at this point, if I feel like you're bitching and complaining and you didn't, I asked you, did you vote? And you said no, I don't want to hear shit.
See, here's my reply to that. I always go back to that George Carlin thing. He was like, you can't bitch at me for voting, for not voting when y'all the ones who voted in the elected officials and y'all complaining about it. You feel me? So the onus is really on y'all, not us who didn't vote.
Yeah, but the electoral votes go by. But the electoral votes, but here's to rebut that slightly, just a little bit. The electoral votes are of the city and the amount of people they have on each side of which way it swings. If it's less people in a very populated area, you have now done your state you live in a disservice. You haven't done anything.
Yeah, see, but here's my thing though. Here's my thing. If you go in there and just because like you, I can't. I don't want to hear. Oh, I heard a little bit. Now I mean, a little bit necessarily isn't enough at times. You know what I mean? Like You thanks, Willie.
I
Thanks for
want to
putting.
vote that way. I'm
Nah, I
sorry, but
mean,
I know I feel you because there's no way I want to go into a booth and I've just not had nothing.
and here's the thing: like a lot of our elected officials reflect us. You feel me? They're only as good as the people that's voting them in. So if we got a lot of poor, like Trump is a reflection of America. At the
Yeah,
end of the day, you know what I mean. Whether people want to admit it or not, Trump is a reflection of America. America voted him in. Now I mean, some may say, well, Hillary won the popular vote, but like we said, that's not how it always happened. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah, if you vote, you cannot complain. You wanted a master and you got one, basically. You know what I mean? Like George Carlin, he was big on not voting. He wasn't a voter. You know what I mean? I'm big on being informed. You know what I mean?
now I can rock with that.
You feel me? I'm big on being informed. That's my thing. If you're not informed, you know what I mean? If you go in there and you just voted uh for Biden or for whoever you voted for, just cause you wanted to vote, it's like how important or know what I mean? How important was your vote? You feel me?
Yeah,
Really? What did you really contribute to any? You didn't really contribute anything. You feel me? It's like pouring a cup of water in the ocean. You ain't really doing nothing.
yeah.
You feel me? You're not adding to nothing. You feel me? If you want to add some value, that's the correct word I'm looking for. Value. Your vote isn't really valuable. You know what I mean? You the one that actually wasted your vote just because somebody tell you, oh, go out and vote, go out and vote. All right, I'm gonna go do it. But why? You know what I mean? Like why? Like Willie mentioned earlier, and like how you were saying, we all like women's rights are important to you. Now I mean, see, I don't know what's going on in Michigan where Willie at, but on our ballot, we was you seen it, Sarita. Excuse me.
Jesus, Jesus.
You see this, son. Uh, uh,
Yeah, yeah.
you
Just
see
don't
this, son.
rub it down. Don't rub it down.
Marijuana. One of the questions was about marijuana,
Hold
the,
on, I gotta.
the legalization of marijuana in New Jersey. You feel me?
I'm here
So
for it.
me too. Now I mean, so I voted yes, but everybody may not be for that. You know what I mean? So like I said, like my point is in Michigan, you know what I mean? You never know. I don't know, and I need Willie to answer. I don't know if y'all more of a conservative or red or blue state over there. You know what I mean? What's the pulse over there with like marijuana legalization? But here, everybody in the state want it, but you got certain people in power who's the minority who's actually fighting against it and then making it hard. Our governor,
And for them, it benefits them. That's half the people go to jail for selling weed that's not legal. So they're in jail for stuff like that, and it makes them money. It's a body that it's money. There's money made in the jail system. So you want and the arresting, all that, like all that stuff is running up money. It's benefiting somebody.
mm-hmm.
Whether it's not it's benefiting us, it doesn't matter. That's why we want it because we listen. This shit out the ground. Like we ain't gonna do nothing to it. So we should be
after
able to
Willie,
have it. They're like, no, they want to put a price on it.
after Willie answer that question, I want to get to that Joy comment that he just posted.
So yeah, I mean here in Michigan, we do have one community that has legalized, I think, recreational marijuana use, and then we have a few other communities that allow it for medicinal use. So as a state, I don't know what's coming down the line, but I know something is coming down the line soon. Excuse me, and I know they want to do recreational across the state. But our state has flip-flopped over the years between red and blue. I think we triggered red last time, but we were blue the last couple of times before that when Obama was elected. So I think as we probably heard is that we had a big issue with the militia coming up trying to bully the governor about the shutdown, and then plan to kidnap her and take over the capital in the next month. And so all of that, I think is no, I just
You
need
got that
some
Rona.
water.
Did you self quarantine for 14 days?
But I think that,
I'll shut this shit down. I don't need on the computer.
You said what?
I said I'll shut this shit down if you got Rona, because I ain't trying to get this through this right now.
No, I'm good. But no, I think that at least from a consensus of people that I've been talking to, things I've been reading, things other people have been talking about, I think there is still a split here in terms of, the red and the blue, trying to decide on who's going to vote for what and what our electoral vote is going to end up being. You know what I mean? I think that's going to be still decided by tomorrow. We're going to be waiting until the end of the night to find that out. And I just posted down here before I posted the link to the USA.gov's voter research links. But also, this is a really good site here, ballotready.org. It's a great site where you can, based on your location, your county, your state, they'll give you a copy of what your actual ballot's going to look like, but also allow you to see information about the candidates that are running, as well as the proposals and the other things that are on the ballot. Get more information. Ballotready.org is where I normally go to get information when I'm voting, so then that way I'm making an informed decision. Let's go back to which one was it? This one or was it the other one?
I think it was the other one.
When she was talking about Trump and his narcissism, I just wanted to. She said our president is extremely narcissistic, and it has allowed demonic spirits of Jezebel and Ahab. God prepared. Okay. Now here's my thing with that, and it's like when we talk about business, because that's all America is. The United States is a big ass business. You feel me? This all this is. We're in a capitalistic. We're not too stupid to vote. God made Google, and that's the thing. I don't think, and that's the part I wanted to get to. I think the topic should have been: do we vote off emotion more? Do we vote off our intelligence? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think a lot of people vote off emotion, off of they don't lack of substance. As far like my thing is like when we go back 4 years ago when we was doing these shows and we was talking about voting for Trump, and I remember saying, I'm like, yo, like Trump gonna win. I'm not voting for Trump, but I was telling everybody Trump gonna win because he touched a certain post with a certain amount of people.
Right.
He's not qualified. He technically, you know what I mean, he really not qualified for the job. You feel me? So you shouldn't even be voting for him. He shouldn't even be a candidate, to be honest with you. The one I remember reading, and I remember mentioning like the young lady who actually started to go vote for Trump ended up being sad and was crying because it actually took off more than what it did, and she really didn't want that. You know what I mean? She was just saying, you know what I mean, because Trump was riding off that draining the swamp thing. You know what I mean? Because everybody was tired of regular politicians. And that's the part. Yeah, and that's the part I wanted to get to, Joy. Narcissistic. Most politicians are narcissistic. Most politicians they're not really getting into it to help you. It's self-serving to a lot of them. Because why? Because the people don't hold them accountable. That's my thing. We don't hold these elected officials accountable because why? We're just going out and voting off of emotion and out excuse me, without no substance. You know what I mean? Like when I always talk about Obama, y'all know I'm not a big fan of Obama. When I ask people why they love Obama so much, they don't never talk about his policies or the stuff he did. They talk about how he carried himself and how he was a symbol for other young black brothers and sisters growing up. You know what I mean? Or how he was a, you know, that post-racial America that they was trying to promote, that he was trying to promote as well, a little bit during his run. You know what I mean? But most people don't never really talk about his policies, what has he done, his failures, or none of that. They don't even know. All they know is how he made them feel and how he looked and how he represented us. You feel me? And I feel like that's a horrible way to determine if somebody did a good job or not. You feel me? Sometimes, even at your jobs, or you know what I mean, if any of I've been in managerial or positions plenty of times, ran my own business. I know Willie has, Sonny, I believe you have too, but where you have to control the room. It's not about being liked. You feel me? It's not always about being liked. Even if we're on the other side, where I don't have to necessarily like my boss or my manager, but if they get the job done, you feel me? Then I'm with it. You feel me? That's what's important. Getting the job done, not necessarily how somebody makes you feel. You feel me? Because somebody can make you feel real good inside, make you feel worthy as a person. You know what I mean? But they're really not doing. Yeah, they're not doing their job, and they're not doing nothing for you and for your game. You know what I mean? For the progress of everybody. You feel me? It's okay. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to make tough decisions. You feel me? You can't just vote on like, damn, that person a good dude. It's like we may want a friend to come work with us. You feel me? But we know that friend kind of lazy. Yeah, or just kind of lazy. And he's going to slow up progress at the job. You know what I mean? He want to talk too much.
Because you're their friend, you can't really say that. They don't want you to really say nothing to him.
Exactly. Know what I mean? So at the end of the day, you have to make that tough. You know how many times I've been at a job somewhere and a couple of people, Clinton, pull me in. Know what I mean? Pull me in. And I think to myself, I'm like, bro, my name is on the line. You feel me? And the next potential person, and the next potential person I could bring in who are really going to work, they're going to lose out because you're going to bullshit. You know what I mean? So I can't just because I love you or because you cool, bring you in. That's not how this works. You know what I mean? Now, if you don't like that and you feel some type of way, well, then that's just how it got to be. But I'm not going to just vote for somebody just because they look good or they speak better. You know what I mean? I'm not the most articulate person. You know what I mean? I can write well, but you know what I mean? I'm not the most articulate person when it comes into public speaking or none of that. But I know some people who are way more articulate than me, dumb as fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know people that can talk that talk, but can't walk that walk at all.
Exactly. So, you know what I mean? We can do it about, you know what I mean? You can micro, macro. Always say break it down to your relationships. I
tell people, you know where I work at. You're like, your job hard? Listen, don't put my name on the application because they come down and they ask me, do I know your work ethic? I'm like, hell no, I don't. I don't know them. I know them as a friend. Like, if I don't personally tell you to put my name on the app, you're not putting my name on the app because you're not getting a job. You're not going to get it. Not with me. You know, come in here and fuck my shit up. Good.
Just always say, bring. If you're going to pick somebody, if you're going to choose somebody of substance. You know what I mean? Because the reason why a lot of people don't vote and be like, our vote don't count or our vote don't matter is because we don't value it enough. You feel me? We don't hold it to a certain standard. You feel me? It's a reason, like they said, that quote is real. It's a reason why they never wanted us to vote. It's a reason why because this is what this is built off of. This is what this Democratic Republic is built off of. They didn't want us to read. They didn't want us to be informed. You know what I mean? So why continue to promote that? Why continue to walk down that path? Now, I mean, it's time to switch it up. It's time to switch it up.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I also think that people with the I think that people with the what's the word with the common sense to know that these politicians are really in this for themselves. Are like Smooth just said, they're self-serving, and I just feel like we have to make some decisions that will change things. Move away from. I mean, I don't know. I think we're in a vicious cycle of having these politicians come in here and they make these promises that never really come about of anything, right? And you have some people who live by depending on that, saying that, oh, they're going to do this for us and this is going to happen. They're putting it into the hands of the politicians, right? But the politicians have, like you said, they have no accountability. They have no reason to ever make good on those until you threaten their job, right? You know, and a lot of times the pressure that's put on becomes usually the kind of the last straw type of pressure. Like this whole situation with this year, of all the protesting, all the police brutality protesting, all of the Black Lives Matter protesting, all that kind of stuff. I mean, think about how many years we've been going through saying that kind of stuff and protesting these kind of things, and nothing's ever come of it. This wasn't new. The same companies that are now putting Black Lives Matter on their stuff, Black Lives Matters on their floors, Black Lives Matters on their buildings, are the same companies that are firing people, condemning people, and making a big, deal about not doing these things literally 6 months before they started doing it. At the end of last year, what's his name? Kaepernick was trying to get back into the NFL, and they were still blackballing him. There was companies still, I don't know if it was Walmart or if it was a company similar that was still, their leadership was still anti-Black Lives Matter. I mean, there's so many examples, and it's like it all comes down to whatever the pressures are, but at the last straw. It's never because we want it. It's never because we need it. I was talking to a friend of mine today that's well, I've always assumed she was a Republican, but I think she aligns herself more independent. And she was making the comment that on my post, I don't know if you guys saw that post I made about Trump and being a Trump supporter, and in this election she's supporting Trump. And I was telling her, I was like, I feel like all of these things that are mentioned here are not the most important things, but they're pertinent because these are the reasons you people voted for him, But she made a point about the defunding the police thing, and she made a point about the guns and all this other stuff. And I was mentioning to her, I was like, well, the defund police situation is about, trying to get different resources involved in community policing versus just the police officers, right? And I was like, I know of examples of, and we've seen examples in the news of mental health patients being gunned down by police officers, literally gunned down, because police officers aren't social workers. They aren't trained to handle mental health. They don't understand it. Some of them don't care. And it's like, how do you have a guy that just came from a shootout with drug dealers go over in the next call and deal with a bipolar, schizophrenic person that needs to be taken to a hospital? Like, it doesn't match up. That skill set doesn't match up. You know what I mean? And it shouldn't have to. It shouldn't have to mix. It should be a separate group or a separate team that deals with those kind of things. And she mentioned that 20, 30 years ago, she was dealing with the same thing with a family member. And I'm like, that's crazy because, 30 years have passed and we still haven't gotten anywhere. And I don't believe we will in the next 10 or 20 years, in this, on that topic, but I'm hopeful, prayerful that, eventually we'll move towards that, and that there'll be a last straw 10, 15 years from now. Somebody's mentally disabled child or mentally disabled relative is going to get gunned down or get beat up or get maimed by a police officer, and they're going to finally get it. And they're going to finally understand. And then they're going to finally do something about it, because there's going to be tons of protesting. There's going to be tons of calls for action, and it's going to be the last.
And it's a different. It's almost like, and that's like the thing of almost hitting the LGBTQ people. If something happened, one of them, they making noise, and so if we, and not to say parents haven't, like other parents haven't been making noise or making a statement and saying that you did this to my child, you need to be thing, but I think it'll be taken more seriously. Like it's like almost like killing the animal. But most people that care, like the majority of people, like whereas it's normal to see people be taken down, especially of color, to be taken down by cops, and then it seemed to be like, oh, criminal history and all this hoopla. So I think
Yeah.
Here's my thing about I just wanted to add on to that. Let's go back to what was it, June? Or when did the George Floyd happen? June, July?
it happened. Like I think it happened.
Whenever the George Floyd situation, yeah. So the world was in an uproar, right? This is what I talk about moving off emotion, but without no strategy. So everybody, the world was in an uproar. Everybody's protesting, right? So just a couple weeks ago, the cop who was on to brother George Floyd's neck, he's home.
And nobody noticed.
Not only is he home, you feel me? The judge allowed him freedom to leave the state for his safety.
Oh wow!
Right. So I ask people, do you think that judge would have gave that same type of freedom to a black man or any other regular person who did that? You know what I mean? That would they been allowed those same freedoms? I don't believe so. So nobody's in an uproar. There's no protest. There's nothing. Anybody's, you know what I mean? You don't even hear about it. It was just a blip on the news cycle, and people just let it go.
Yeah, because I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah, the issue is
crazy or nothing.
You know what I mean? The government knows that once, motivation is like motivation. Motivation means nothing. Consistency is everything. Motivation to get you started, but if you aren't consistent and have good habits, you ain't gonna do nothing. You feel me? So to be consistent, you have to be informed. You know what I mean? You have to know who's the elected officials. Now I'm slipping right now because I don't actually know the judge's name, but everybody there should be aware of that judge. You know what I mean? And all the prosecutor, all those people involved, and they should be calling for their jobs. They should be aware of who's in these positions. We're not. So situations like this happen. You know what I mean? Everybody wanted to protest. Everybody talk about police reform. Okay, what about the judicial system as a whole? You know what I mean? As a whole. So like even with this, when they just passed, was the Amy Coney Barrett as a Supreme Court justice. A lot of people was fighting. A lot of people was fighting her nomination because she doesn't. And this is a woman, and it was like one of the main reasons why Trump and them and the Republicans wanted to push her through. She doesn't believe she isn't pro-choice.
Pro-choice. She's pro-life.
Right. She's pro-life. Yeah.
She's pro-life. So they she's going to try to get in there and reverse Roe versus Wade. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Stuff like that happens when, most people, when a lot of people voted Trump in, they wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
You feel me? They wasn't aware of that he had that power to do that. You know what I mean? You don't expect Nobody expected Ruth
Ruth Bader Ginsburg, yeah.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg to pass right before the new election. You know what I mean? But stuff like that happens. So if we're not aware of the whole thing, then what are we really doing? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Or we just, you know what I mean? Say that again, Willie?
No, I was just saying exactly that. I'm agreeing. I'm in agreement.
Yeah, it's like, are we just playing a game? You know what I mean? Are we gonna really be serious? You feel me? So like
Yeah.
I want my daughter, you know, who's listening right now, which you know what I mean, she lucky she ain't got school tomorrow. You feel me? But you know what I mean? I want her when it's time for her to get of age, you know what I mean, which would be 10 years exactly from this point, you know what I mean, 2030. You know what I mean?
You already got the
I
countdown.
want her to
You know,
be able
you know exact time of the day. No, you should know, but go ahead.
yeah, I should know. Shoot, she came out in the car on the way to the hospital.
Oh shit! She went to the hospital for a child.
Yeah, I was in the hospital looking at her head come out. That's a whole different story. But I want her, you know, when the first time she go vote, I want her to be 10 times more advanced than me at my peak. Forget
Mhm.
me when I was 18 and the first time I voted. I want her to be better and more informed than I am right now, next Wednesday. You feel me?
Oh, her little
So I want
baby.
her, yeah. So I want her when she turned 18 and she get in that voting booth, I want her to be smarter than what I am right now. You know what I mean? Because I want her to know to value her vote. You know what I mean? Be informed. You know what I mean? And I'm not gonna tell her who to vote for, what party, you know what I mean? Because whatever conditions then may be totally different now. I mean, whatever the conditions now gonna be totally different then. You feel me? Go ahead, bro.
So I wanted to touch on this article I was reading. This was another reason I called this show "Are We Too Stupid to Vote?" So there's this article I was reading. It's the title of it is "Why Voting Makes Us Stupid." So in it they go over different reasons why our political system and our voting system and the way that people vote it dumbs us down, but then it also reveals some things about people in general, right?
Mhm.
And one of the things that it mentions, um, the first thing it mentioned that I thought was important to think about. It mentions that voters are not capable of playing the role that participation-minded reformers would thrust upon them, right?
Mhm.
And what they mean by that, and what I think they mean, is, I mean, it's kind of obvious, right? I mean, think about the protests, right? Think about all the things that were involved in the protesting, but also think about what demands that we ended up seeing being made in certain areas. You know, between the zone in Seattle where they had certain demands of that zone. I can't think of what the zone was called, but they had that zone where they had taken over. They had pushed the police out. They had taken. It was basically the community was policing themselves, but also they were basically, making certain demands on the governor in Washington, and so there were certain things that they were demanding. And when you think about who kind of comes up with these ideas, these are people who are politically involved, they're politically motivated, they're also socially motivated and socially involved, right? From a social issue standpoint, and that's not a general public kind of thing. People in general do not actively participate in social reform, political reform, and things of that nature. So the things that we want, that the reformers would want the voters to be involved in, voters aren't even capable. They don't even want to make themselves capable of that, right? Like, we're asking people to just make themselves informed, just be informed.
Yeah.
It's not a hard ask when like Joy mentioned earlier. We got Google. It's not that hard to go Google who are these, who should I vote, why should I vote for these candidates? You vote, you Google that, it'll give you a bunch of websites that'll tell you why you should vote for certain candidates. What am I voting on? You Google that, literally that statement. What am I voting on? It will give you a list of websites that will give you information on things that are being put on the ballots for this year. So it's not like the information is not at our fingertips. It's not 20 years ago when our parents were trying to figure out who to vote for. It's not like that, right? You know, even 20 years ago, the information was out there, a little harder to get to, but it was out there. You know, so I think that the or the what's the word, the not the requirements, but just the expectations that we put on certain voters is they're incapable and unwilling to perform. But another thing they mentioned, they says um it says here it is. So they were saying that uh you know reforms will produce more representative politics, better governance, or a happier public. It's borderline indefensible. But he says this is true not because voters are stupid, but because they are smart. And smart in a different way, right? It says that they are rational to limit their investment in policy knowledge and instead treat their vote as an expression of protest, prejudice, or tribal solidarity. And you see that with Republican voters, you see that with conservative voters, you see that with people who are voting for certain types of reform. They vote to protest. A lot of times, oh no, I think Sonny, you mentioned it, where people were voting against Hillary Clinton because they wanted a certain type of person in office. Some people were voting against Democrats because they wanted a more religiously conscious government, right? And the conservatives or the Republicans usually try to fit that conservative picture, right? So pro-life, prayer in school, having what is it? They're against gay marriage, things like that. So things that are conservative views, they appeal to that, and people will use that in order to make their voting decision, right? And that becomes their complaint against people who vote for Democrats, because they're like, hey, liberals want to take away guns, they want to allow gay marriage, they want to kill babies, they want to do this, they want to do that. They believe that there's all this racism, and these conservatives don't believe racism exists anymore. Not the conservatives, but that some of these people that don't support that, they don't want to believe that it exists. So there's a lot of prejudices and protesting going on in their vote. So what do you guys think about the fact that they're saying the biases expressed at the polls distort both their politics and their policy, because they can't remove themselves from that. They basically can't remove themselves from that.
From the bias of not like, I don't like this person, it doesn't matter.
Because honestly, if you ever talk to a Trump supporter that's conservative, a lot of times their thought process is, I'm voting for a Christian, or I'm voting for somebody who's going to uphold Christian values, regardless of the fact that, one, Trump is not a Christian. He doesn't go to church. He doesn't have Christian morals and has never expressed those, but they still associate that with their voting stance.
That's probably because he's basically he basically are aligned with them to a certain degree, because he may not believe in same-sex marriage. He may not believe it's a woman's right to choose. So whether or not he is conservative, his what he doesn't like fits the conservative way, So that's it. I think that's why people vote And as far as them voting as a protest, yeah, that we did that. They did. It wasn't even a protest. It was more of a statement with the Obama election. The first black man who, what most black people would vote for him because why? He's the first black man. So it wasn't even it didn't like to Clinton's point, nobody cared about the politics, nobody kept saying what that man did. All you know is that's the first black president. Hey children, look up to him because he's the first he made it as the first black president. And on top of that, he lived. So so that's the way they voted because it was a protest to who the other candidates were. It didn't matter. It really didn't matter. It was just like we don't want this. So let's do this now because this is the more like I'm pretty sure if we had a legit candidate for each nationality, Latino, Arabic American born, or Chinese, Japanese, or Korean, whichever, Mexicans, Guatemalans that were born in the United States and everything, and they have that. Like imagine everybody would do that in that particular thing because okay, we like the same way I thought with Hillary was going to get the woman's vote because it was a woman. She wasn't the right woman, but people would have voted for her because she was just a woman. She didn't get the votes because she lost, but because
I
her
think
values didn't match other people's values.
I think sometimes we make a deal with the devil to satisfy some instant gratification. And I think that's what it comes down to. So, like for instance, to your point, people voted for Obama not necessarily because Obama was right for the job. It just Obama made us feel a certain type of way. You
Well, he had
feel
certain
me?
qualifications. He at least was a politician. So he had some.
Nah,
I said he was a politician and stuff, so he was able to get some
nah,
experience.
nah.
So he
I
had
understand he
experience.
was a politician, but most people didn't vote for him because he was a politician. Most
Mm.
people didn't vote for him because he was qualified for the job. Most people voted for him, and a lot of black people voted for him, like you said, because he was black to satisfy something in them. It's like sometimes we make a deal with the devil to 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 further our own interests, but you got to remember, you feel me? You made a deal with the devil. So like a lot of people voted for Trump. It's because Trump, like Willie said, touched something in them. You feel me? It may have not even been he represented their values. He was just counter to those, what I mean? It's like, what I mean, the enemy of my
Now,
enemy.
now we got this.
Yeah, like the enemy of my enemy is my ally. You
Yeah.
feel me? So like Trump necessarily isn't a Republican. You feel me? Like he stated that before. He's not necessarily a Republican. He just chose that ticket because you feel me, they aligned with certain things that he wanted to get done. You feel me? And they accepted him. You feel me? So sometimes, we vote against our best interests. You know what I mean? So like the Republicans are like Willie stated are supposed to run on conservatism. You feel me? Like pro, they pro-life, like Willie was saying, that they're against gay marriage and stuff and all that stuff. But they supposed to be non-racist or what have you, or you know what I mean, do for self. That's one of the main things about the Republicans that a lot of people ride with. There's less government, do for self, and that's how, you know what I mean, a lot of them followed Trump because he was preaching that, oh, I'm gonna drain the swamp. You feel me? I'm a different type of politician. So he was touching a certain thing within them. You know what I mean? And it had nothing to do with policies. It had nothing to do with what they thought he can do for them politically or anything. And in a Republican elite, so you got to separate the people from the actual elites within the party. That's why I say I tell people stop following a party. See, the Republican Party, they seen a win in Trump. You feel me? He may have not been the best candidate, As far as politics go, I mean, as far as policy go, that's the key word. He may not have been the best candidate as far as policy go, but as far as politics go, he was the best. He was the best choice because it comes down to a popularity contest. You know what I mean? So we're gonna vote for him because he's what's best for the Republican Party at this point in time to help us get power. That's all they used Trump for, was to gain power again. That's all the Republican Party used Trump for, was to gain. They've got control of the Senate. You know what I mean? Now it's been a perfect storm. They done turned the tables in the Supreme Court. You know what I mean, with the justices. You feel me? So everything's starting to become in their favor. So they made the deal with the devil, but at the same time, you got a lot of Republicans that's crossing that aisle now. A lot of true, you know what I mean, Republicans who was with the conservative, who were really conservative. Now they shine away from Trump. You know what I mean? So where you got some of the people that was in the elite, they like, nah, we need him to get that power. You feel me? That's all this comes down to me, is power. You know what I mean? Who can gain the most power? That's why I'm like, you know what I mean? There's two peas in the pod. That's why you always, when you talk about the Democrats, that's why they always shame people who vote independently. You know what I mean? A lot of, you know what I mean? And I'm talking about the Democratic elite, you know what I mean? Like the people that run the party or who got some something of value to gain from the party. You know what I mean? They always want to shame people who vote. Oh, you splitting the vote. Oh, this, that, and the third. It's because they want power. You feel me? That's all they want is power. You feel me? It ain't necessarily always about policy. You know what I mean? It ain't necessarily always about policy.
True that. Well, it's after 11 o'clock, so we are now in the
After show. That was cute.
No doubt. So, one thing I've been talking about and I've been discussing with people is the after effects of this election. There's two things that I've been thinking about that's going to happen after this election. One is, there's a direct correlation with who wins the election and what we're going to do with COVID-19. And I think I posted it earlier. Of course, I don't have it up on my thing. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. What is it? If Biden wins, we're going to probably experience a shutdown. And if Trump wins, we're all going to die, right? So I think that I really think that after the election, if Biden wins, he's going to want to do something different. He's going to want to put the government or the country rather into a shutdown situation. And I feel like it's going to be out of the premise of trying to do something different than what Trump did during this beginning of this pandemic. Out of just trying to do something different, right? Hopefully, considering that some states don't need it versus others, or letting some states manage themselves. But I think that we have that to look forward to if he wins. If Trump wins, we have more of the same rhetoric being put out there. But I think still some of the state governments and municipalities are going to still make their own decisions, right? Because Trump, that's the one thing about Trump. Trump doesn't want to be a blame for any of this. He doesn't want to be the blame for the thousands, the tens of thousands of deaths, but he also doesn't want to be the blame for the economy tanking, right? He doesn't want either, right? But then the other problem we have is Trump has been putting out not information, but like kind of like guidance, the whole stand down and stand back, or stand back and stand by. He didn't say stand down. He said stand by and stand back or whatever. Is what's going to happen if he loses and these militia groups, these extremists, these white terrorists. I mean, that's what they are. They're basically terrorists. What are they going to do if Trump doesn't win? You know, I was
That's
just
what my coworker.
on the Gulf Coast in Florida, and there's like had to been at least 50 trucks full of guys, white guys, guns, driving down the street with their Trump flags going, their American flags going, all excited. You know, they got air horns going. In Texas, they they literally ran people off the road. They took a Biden bus and basically pushed it out of town in Austin, Texas. In New Jersey, I heard that they blocked a freeway for some god awful reason. So there's all of this, and then here in Michigan, they tried to kidnap our governor.
Oh wow,
So
they're doing too much.
yeah,
I think
so
that it's funny because
terrorists, you got these domestic terrorists that are going to do that we're fearful are going to do something if their God doesn't win.
yeah, but I had a conversation with my friend like that a couple hours before the podcast started. She doesn't know what we were talking about. She was may or may not going to be able to join, but she said the white people at her job are scared because if if Trump wins again, they're scared if Trump wins again, what's going to happen. So like a lot of people have been calling off of work, not wanting to be out because they don't know what's going to happen, and it's like I think and I just feel personally, it would be what you said. People scared that if Trump doesn't win, what are the supremacists going to do? What are they going to do? Because now they're upset because they wanted him for the full 8 years, and now they don't have him for that particular period of time. So I think the concern would be the reverse, or reverse of what I said and onto what you said. Like the reaction from that, it's already been it's like we're at a point in this time that we can't deal with Trump for four more years. But like with what's going on, we not that we can't. Like, we don't want to deal with him. Out of all the stuff we got going on, a lot of us don't want to deal with him anymore. So it's like it's a thing of that. I just think it's going to be interesting to see what the outcome is, whether or not we go into lockdown and all this stuff to prevent the riots and or the militia coming out to try to let them know let everyone know. Like in that case, that's going to be crazy, depending on the areas and the ratio of the population of the people that are in the supremacy and in these militia groups versus what the population is like. I mean, it's all over the world. It's going to be chaos if that happens. I'm hoping it doesn't. I hope people get mad, write a couple Facebook posts, send out some tweets, and go on about your business. Go on TikTok, make some racist ass shit. People get mad, whatever.
Yeah, my only concern is they've been very mobile and they've been very active. You know, I literally watched this video where they tried to run people off the road. It's just crazy, and I've seen these people out and about doing their thing. Clint, go ahead, Smooth. I'm gonna let you go ahead and do your thing.
No. I was just gonna say, like when you study history, you feel me? This really ain't nothing new. You feel me? Them trying to intimidate people who to vote for on either side. Threats. Presidents been assassinated. You feel me? People have been murdered before. Do I think there's going to be an all-out civil war? All this, you know what I mean? No. You feel me? Because one thing people got to realize is, they ain't stopped making guns when they made theirs. You feel me? We all got guns. You feel me? So it's like, like the live in fear or what type of nah. I think are there going to be some uprisings in certain places? Yes. You know what I mean? That's human nature. You feel me? I feel like on both sides that's going to happen. I feel like it's going to be some places where Democrats going to go crazy and protest, and there's going to be just think about when Trump won. I mean, we just go back quick 4 years ago when Trump won. You feel me? Everybody went to the streets. You feel me? You had that whole women's march was basically because of Trump won. You know what I mean? They was marching. You know what I mean? They was upset. Uh, the whole Democratic Party for these last 4 years, for especially the first two, was trying to get him out of there the whole time. You feel me? They were trying to get him out. You know what I mean? They was trying to come up, and they couldn't prove nothing. You understand? So to think, so to think that if Biden win, the people not going to meet that he wouldn't meet that same type of resistance. You know what I mean? That's wishful thinking. You know what I mean? But like, do I think, you know what I mean, people should be scared to walk the streets? Or, you know what I mean? They were already there was mass shootings under Obama. There was mass shootings under George Bush. You know what I mean? There was mass shootings Bill Clinton. You know what I mean? Like, so like nothing's, you know what I mean? I don't see this, you know what I mean? Everybody, I don't see this thing where everybody should be living in fear or scared to come to work. Like you said, people are scared to come to work if Trump win, or people are going to be nervous if Biden wins. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's going to be a little uproar in certain spots, but like, you know what I mean? Like I said, we got guns too. You feel me? Like,
well, so I think this is the problem. People forget quickly. People literally forget. Like you just said, this isn't new. Things have happened in the past. Voter intimidation has happened in the past. Situations with, like you said, the shooting. Situations with, I mean, there's a lot of this stuff that's happened in the past. But like, perfect example. I was in Florida, and I got a text message from somebody that's in a northeastern state. They said it snowed here. Oh my God, it was so cold and it snowed on Halloween. I also got then I was told that it snowed in Detroit. My fiance mentioned that. Oh yeah, I heard it snowed in Detroit. Oh my God, I can't believe it snowed in Detroit in October. And I thought about it. I'm like, do people realize it snows every year? Every year, not some years, not occasionally. Every year it snows October 31st every year, like literally every year. For the last 15 years, it snowed. I've never seen a year, and I'm only saying 15 because that's as far as I can remember. 15 years, it snowed every year, but nobody ever remembers. They're shocked. They're literally in shock and awe. Like, oh my God, it's so cold. They never remember. So if they can't remember something as simple as that, they're not going to remember something as simple as the fact that we go through this, right? We go through these voter suppression situations. We went through it with the 2000 election. They said that was the highest voter fraud situation that we've ever had. It was only like 100 and something cases, but still, there was the highest one we had. We had that in 2000. We had it again in 2008, I believe, when Obama was elected, and it was a situation where it was just more of the whole problem of voter tracking, right? So there's been that, right? And then, like you said, with the intimidation, that stuff has been going on for decades. It's something that we faced as Black people since the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s. When they first allowed Black people to vote, and then when they finally went through and passed laws to prevent voter intimidation, for those decades, that's something that we've dealt with. But it never stopped. It still never stopped. Exactly. So I think people just forget. They forget, and or they don't think about it, right? From that standpoint. but I think what it is that we also have this problem of um, right now there's so much because it's in social media. There's so much discussion about it, right? You know, I literally talked to this to my ex-wife about it. I said, hey, I think that we're gonna have a situation where because I've been hearing on the news as well as been hearing from different people that there's a fear that that we have the fear we have to think about what's going to happen when Trump loses or if Trump loses, right? And I literally mentioned this. Like I talked to her about it. I think like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, but I think it was 2 weeks ago. And she sent me a text message last night or 2 nights ago, like, "Hey, a friend of mine sent me this," and it's literally the same thing I said about the whole Trump, may possibly, or not Trump, but that the militias or the different people may get upset and want to start riots or may want to start trouble, and it's like I literally just told you about this, but because of the discussions on social media, it was presented a different way. It hit it hit differently, right? And I think that a lot of times people, when they're hearing this from different sources and they're hearing it from different areas and hearing it in different ways, it makes it a little more real for them, and it makes them a little more fearful because they hear it so often. So I think that's another thing is that we have it's a different avenue, right? Because in the past all we relied on was the news.
Yeah, now social media is just
It's social media,
bombarding.
it's flooding, it's
Everywhere.
flood, it's flooding.
It's so much
Is that we
information.
get flooded with this information. We literally get flooded.
It's good information. It's bad information. It's just all
Which,
across the
and
board.
that's
So you
another
don't really
thing.
know.
I mean, and I took a stance because Clint basically, I mean, he didn't personally put me to this, but I took it from a standpoint of listening to him talk about do your own research, understand things for yourself, and I said, okay, you know what? I've been hearing about this whole situation with the crime bill, and I want to understand more of why people feel like this crime bill was so bad. It sounds bad. I've seen the memes. I've seen plenty of memes. I've never seen the actual crime bill. I've never actually read it. And I have to ask myself, has anybody else read it?
Yeah.
So I found an article that broke down, and the funny thing to me about this article is it literally was like breaking down why the problem of the issue with the crime bill is a little misguided. Not to say that it's a good that the crime bill is a good thing. Not to say that it was anything great about the crime bill. The problem is that there's some misguided discussion about the crime bill. And one of the biggest points about it to me is that a lot of people always say don't vote for Biden because Biden wrote this crime bill and he jailed millions of black men. Problem is, it didn't. It didn't start there. They were like, oh my God, like this started, what's the word for it? The prison complex, right? The prison industrial complex, right? They're like, oh yeah, crime bill started the prison industrial complex, but it didn't. The prison industrial complex has been there way before the 90s. It was maybe even before the 60s, but this article kind of put in perspective how laws in the 60s kind of built this prison industrial complex in the 60s. Biden wasn't a politician in the 60s. So it's like there's some misguided thought processes behind this, right? And like I said, not that I'm trying to promote the crime bill as something that was good or that should have been put in the law, but there's certain things we just need to understand for ourselves. Do your research from the standpoint of understanding that not everything you see in a meme is true. Not everything that you see written on the internet has validity. You know what I mean? So we have
Because
to take
people,
a step back and realize that some of the agendas and what they're perpetuating may be false.
and that's the key thing. That's the key thing.
Exactly.
And we spoke about that last election when I was like, a lot of people have to be aware that everybody has an agenda. You feel me? So to follow somebody just because they posting stuff and you know and it sound good, just remember, you feel me, they trying to get you to come along with their agenda, just like the other side that you don't like want you to follow their agenda. And as far as that crime bill, it's like when you look at it, you feel me, the only thing about the crime bill is that it affected black people more, not necessarily that it was direct. See, it's being made that the crime bill was directed specifically for black folk. You know what I mean? To where it's just, it affected us more because we're already, you know what I mean? They're already going to treat us dirty anyway. So that crime bill just gave them a little bit of, oh, we could sentence them harsher, or we gonna sentence them harsher. You feel me? That's, you know what I mean? That's all really what the crime bill was. You feel me? So like, you know what I mean? And he apologized. He know he fucked up with it, you know what I mean? And he wasn't the only one, you know what I mean? It's like people were so in love with Bill. Black people call him Bill Clinton black. You feel me? And like he's just as much. You
Yes,
feel
like
me?
he was our first black president because he
Yeah.
smoked weed.
When it comes down to that crime bill, he was just as much culpable as Joe Biden. So it's like, you know what I mean? Don't pick and choose. Don't pick and choose. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So my thing is, uh, to get back to your original question, is people shouldn't be living in fear. You feel me? Should you expect some crazy shit to happen? Either way the election goes, you should expect some weird stuff. Here's what I need a lot of people to understand is that is a huge uh amount of people that's like me, that are independent, who don't like neither one of these parties. Now, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of I notice a lot more black people are starting to back away from both parties. You know what I mean? Not necessarily you know, some of them are on some old, let's start a uh we should make our own party and this, that, and the third. With me, I'm like, what's our own party? Like, what you know what I mean? For me, that's like us being a monolith. We're not a monolith. We all don't, you know what I mean? We'll never have a black party. You know what I mean? That's just not going to happen because we all don't think alike. You know what I mean? Certain stuff that affect us on the East Coast, like we were saying earlier, is not going to really affect Willie in the Midwest or whatever, or those on the West Coast, or those down in the Northwest or Southwest or whatever. Like we all dealing with different types of stuff. You understand? What I mean, like I talked to a friend of mine, and you know, she stay in Louisiana, Winona. You know, she was on the show before. You know what I mean? My baby girl. So she like what goes on, you know, how she interact with different races down there is different. You feel me? Than how we interact. You know what I mean? And it's weird to me. And it's also different where she live at, how black folks interact with each other down there. You know what I mean? Where she at? She's like, there's a lot of black people where she at that's you know what I mean? They still follow after white folk. You know what I mean? Like they still caught into that, you know what I mean? We have to, white is right. You know what I mean? Because that's how they, you know, they've been subjected to a different type of racism, a different type of way of living down there, that a lot of them small towns down there, they think different. She's like, a lot of the black men just want white women. I tell her, out here, you'll see it. You'll see black dudes with a white woman, but it's not as prevalent, and it's not something that's, you know what I mean, everybody want to do. You know what I mean? So it's like the way we live, the way we think is always different. So the feel as though that, you know what I mean, my thing is it's a lot of people that's stepping away from this two-party system, a lot of people that are starting to think for themselves, you know what I mean, especially black people, you feel me? we had plenty of shows where we talk about the disconnect within our community. You feel me? Our community, I feel like a lot of people are getting smarter. I think a lot of people are still want to stick with the status quo. You feel me? Or the you know what I mean? There's a not just a gender war, but an age war going on within our community. And that age war affects politics as well, how people think about politics. You know what I mean? And I feel like things are just changing, bro. Like things are just changing. And I think everybody just thinking, oh, Democrats, oh, Republicans. It's a whole wave of new folks coming. A whole wave of new folks coming who don't care about none of that shit.
Keep
Sorry,
forgetting I'm
hold on.
muted. I'm
I
having a
was
whole
about to say
conversation like, wait a
something.
minute,
But
I'm
yeah,
muted. I'm muted.
I was about to say that whole wave. That was one thing that I
No, that
that
ain't
I
no
was going to
tweet.
say
Fact
was
though.
that,
Oh,
huh?
nothing. Nothing. That's
You said
fact
what?
though.
Oh no. What I was about to say was that so that whole wave of new. So I was reading another article. You know me, I'm always reading. So I was reading this other article, and it was saying how in a study that they recently did, um, young voters between 18 to 29 were up from 43% to 67%. So so I think that was another reason I'm hopeful about future legislation and future policies being made, because we have a whole new group of young people who are affected a little differently
Mm-hmm.
by the things that are happening right now, not only here in 2020, but things that happened in 2018, things that happened in 2016, that they have a different mindset, different viewpoint, right? Now, not to say that they're all going to be, fitting a certain category, that they're all going to fit in a certain group, but they all have a different viewpoint, right? And I think that they're gonna start to move the political system in a different direction, right? And I think a good representation of that is like what's happening with the new class, well, the new class from 2016 of freshman congresswomen, right? With AOC, with Senator Talib, and all the other representatives that started at that time. So um, there's a different mindset in regards to how they want to approach this political system, and as well as how they want to move the needle in terms of how this political system benefits them. And I think that that's important also because, from a standpoint of how young people, I mean, we have this whole big fight between millennials and Generation X and Generation Z, or Generation Y rather, Generation Z and millennials versus Generation X and Generation Y, is that they have a whole different mindset in terms of how they want to operate, right? And their agenda is what's going to start driving this thing, So I think that we're definitely starting to see the beginnings of that, because they're young, they're voting, and the increase, that's huge. That 43 to 67% increase, that's huge. So they're definitely going to be pushing their own agenda. They're going to be putting in their own candidates, and hopefully, what I really want to see is a lot of this old guard get pushed out. It's time. It's beyond time.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of leadership in Republicans, a lot of leadership in Democrats. It just needs to go. They're old as fuck.
Mhm.
Most of the leadership is over 60 years old. Like, nigga, get out. Y'all need to go.
Like if Biden was to win and then run again, he'll be what, like in his 80s?
Exactly. He's already almost 80 years old now. He's like 76 or 77. Nigga, he's
Yes.
old already. Like we were on the right track when we had Obama in because he was young, you know.
Mm.
And then now to jump to 70 something with Trump and then 70 something again with Biden. Like these old politicians, they gotta go. They really need to go. It's
Facts.
getting out of hand.
Facts. And I mean, and like you said, I feel like this new wave, this new guard, you know what I mean? And I feel like even those our age, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like first of all, I want to switch subjects real quick. Sonny, man, if you don't cut that goddamn camera off and go to sleep and do something, because Sonny is baked over there.
Hold on, what?
All the way.
What did you say?
You really red right now. Like you is
No, I'm
red right
not.
now.
Take her out the oven, Clint. Take her out the oven.
What I
she mentioned it earlier. She in the comments mentioned it earlier. You know what I mean? Them eyes super low.
nah, because I realized that I'm like I'm sitting like this. I'm stuck. I was like, oh yeah, okay.
But like Willie was saying, the new wave. I feel like even people our age and older, some older people. You know what I mean? Like I noticed my mom changed her views on voting. You know what I mean? And how she sees things to where before, you know, she was a little more passive when it came to, but now she sees the importance in it. And she's more, I mean, she like to get more informed and she more, you know, like me and her probably, you know, I think she probably voted for Biden. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean, before it was like, man, I ain't voting for none of them. You know what I mean? I don't trust none of them. To now it's more, it's just like, all right, I gotta get more involved. You know what I mean? I gotta these things are going to affect me and my kids, this, that, and the third. So I feel like from every age group, people are starting to realize, you know what I mean? You still got a lot of people who feel like it's worthless or useless, but I feel like a lot of us, and I'm just specifically talking about our community now. I feel like a lot of us are starting to realize the importance of our vote. You feel me? Like I said, I don't think we're too stupid to vote. I think we're too lazy and too emotional to vote. You know what I mean? You know, black people are way too emotional. We do things way off our emotion too much instead of taking a step back, using being logical, being strategic. You know what I mean, with our votes. You know what I mean, and you feel me? Like local elections before we wrap up are important. Like Sonny will tell you, even on our ballots wasn't just about the president. You feel me? It was I believe we had the sheriff on there. Help me out, Sonny. We had the
You laughing at
Congress.
now? Like, you know where I'm at right now?
But I believe we had it was a couple of not just the questions, the polling questions on there, but
It had a couple
that
different people on. I know it had a couple. I remember it had a couple people on it.
yeah,
Um,
like they even had the weed man, the New Jersey
yeah,
weed
because
man.
he running for what the hell is he running for? Oh my god! Because when he ran, I saw his name. It was
Was it
for
Congress? Was it Congress?
I think it was a congressperson,
Yeah, he was running for Congress.
or was a seat. Like I don't know what it was crazy.
Yeah, you know
I
what I
can't
mean.
remember. He been on it for a while. He been trying to get on for the longest.
Yeah, so it's
It's something below Bonnie
Mercer
Watts'
County
post.
executive. It was another ballot went over there. It was for the executive Mercer County executive seat or something
Yeah.
like that. So it's all of those. You have to be just as informed about those names on the ballot as much as, you know what I mean, the presidential. You know what I mean? Like we should focus on everything, become more well-rounded. You know, because I feel like the smarter or the more strategic the voters are, the candidates, the better the candidates will be. You know what I mean? We start vetting our candidates properly, you know what I mean? We'll start to we'll get a better pool. We'll get a better pool.
Yeah, we had similar full ballot. You know, we had the president, the U.S. Senate. We had our House of Representatives. I think our biggest issue was that we had a U.S. Senate race that was full. Like we had Republican, Democrat, we had a Green Party, and we had a tax party. I think it's called U.S. Tax Party. Yeah, U.S. Taxpayers Party on there. Our state candidates, we had board of education, we had trustees from all the different local universities. We got our board of regents, our governors, or not our governor, but
Y'all
our
had a lot of different,
university
spots
governor,
opening
and
up.
then our district representatives. I'm sorry, say it again.
So y'all had a lot of spots that was opening up within your districts and cities.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Plus, we had tons of local races going on between the county clerk, the prosecuting attorney, treasurers, school board, and as well as all of our judicial um, spots were open. So we had a ton of judges to choose from. The one thing about the judge situation is, and we were talking about that with some of my, I was talking to some of my classmates about that, which is the fact that a lot of these judges were coming through. There was one judge, and I swear this was the worst one. This one judge, he literally changed his name in order to try to make himself look more appealing on the ballot.
Wow.
He literally changed his name. So he went from some weird name like it's just some off name to Hathaway, which in Michigan, judges with the last name Hathaway normally get voted in.
Wow.
So he changed his last name to Hathaway. He married a Hathaway, and they claimed that he changed his last name to Hathaway to honor his wife.
Wow.
Really, bro?
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing.
He knew what he was doing. Like, you didn't change the name to Hathaway just on a whim. No, I'm pretty sure. Your wife isn't even a Hathaway. You changed that, voted in. She did too. She's a Hathaway. She never changed her name. Why did
Weird.
Because the Hathaway name was important for her judicial position. Scams, right? But then we also had a search warrant for election data amendment for the state of Michigan, state and local park funds amendment to fund the state and local parks, as well as our millage renewal for the schools, the school districts, and the school in the state. So once again, people need to understand what they're voting for. They need to understand why they're voting for these things, and just be cognizant of the fact that a lot of this stuff it's outside of this whole presidential election. You're not just, and that's the thing about people that are protesting this whole thing of, they're like, oh, the electoral college. It's not about the electoral college. Think about the fact that you have judges that you need to vote on, that you need to decide, do they share your viewpoints on child support, on community policing, on drug offenses, there's so many reasons that you need to be conscious of the judges that you're voting on, as well as the representatives. The representatives, they can affect your job. I mean, especially here in Detroit, where we have what's the word, automotive industry companies that kind of pretty much affect our bottom line across all industries in this state and in the city. And if you pick the wrong candidate, that candidate could undermine and undercut the auto industry. I mean, I voted based on what the automaker union wanted to vote on, because those policymakers are going to benefit us in the long run. That's important to think about. Does your job rely on the auto industry? And if it does, you want to vote a certain way. Other than that, you're not going to have a job. And if you're not thinking about that, and you don't understand that, you got a problem. You got a big problem. So,
well, all right, y'all. I think that should be a wrap.
There was some questions in a different chat. I don't know.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm not ready for it.
If y'all rewind it, I checked
No,
it.
I was about to tell him press the playback because I caught that. Caught all that.
I know I caught that too. I was like,
Then I caught the Facebook relationship that was up for like 2.5 seconds.
And I said right after you typed that, right after you put that in the chat, I said, nah,
like,
there ain't no T. That's what it is. I did. I said that. I said it.
Wait a minute.
No T.
No, I know.
we were unaware. We were unaware and uninformed.
He just stuck it on live.
My phone about to die,
Not his phone about to die.
Give out the info.
All right, give me information out. Go ahead, Sonny.
No, let Clint go first. His phone about to die.
Okay.
Well, y'all already know y'all can catch me on Twitter at @eTrentonGroomy. Catch me on my blog at kingstruth.com. Post poetry daily. You know, I write some articles, some information articles. I also going to start doing the interviews again. So stay tuned for that. And you know, that's about it. And pretty soon I'm gonna start my own little sports podcast too. So be on the lookout for that.
All right now. Okay. And of course, it's your favorite girl, Sunny. I am Sunny_D. Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and TikTok. I'll be on tonight. I'm posting my my Christmas, what I want for Christmas. Since they started already putting out Christmas shit, I got my Christmas list. And go to my blog, unreservedlyme.com, and check me out there.
It's your boy Willie Styles in the building. IG, Twitter, TikTok. Get at me at Willie Styles. Willie.Styles on Snapchat. You can get me at Willie Styles 94 on Twitch. Snitch. I'm not snitching. I promise you that. Or visit me at stylesradio.com or williestyles.info for all my links. So check out my flow page. If you go to my Instagram, click on the link in my bio, you'll catch all my links over there. Yeah, that's how I do it.
See y'all in 7 days. Holla.
Hey guys, it's your girl Sunny D, 1/3 of the podcast GFT Radio Show.
What up, though? It's your boy Willie Styles from the GFT Radio Show. Just letting you know you can catch us every Monday night, 10 p.m. Eastern.
And to get some merch, I got some on right now. Go to teesprings.com/stores/GFT Radio.
Grown Folk Talk Radio. Join the conversation. Let's have some fun. Holla.